Well, I'm going to get started. We're right at 3 o'clock, and I definitely want to give people as much time to chat and spend in the breakout groups. But I'm going to kick us off and take it from there. So, well, hello everyone. I'm Clara Lucino, and I would like to welcome you to our Metis Connects webinar. For many years, we've had the pleasure of meeting with you in your districts, visiting your schools, and talking directly with your staff and students and teachers. But this year, we've really missed those connections dearly. But we've also experienced, as you probably have, the value of virtual connections. So we decided to take advantage of our virtual community and invite our MSAP clients to participate in this virtual magnet mingle. So we know we can't provide wine and cheese, but we can leverage our connections across our grantees to provide a space for learning and sharing. And we hope this webinar provides that space for you today. Sorry. Before we get started, I'd just like to remind everyone to mute your phones and computers just to limit excess noise and distractions, to save your questions for the breakout groups or the share out, and also to let you know that the session will be recorded and shared with you after the webinar. Also, before we begin, I would like to introduce our Metis MSAP team, whose members are currently evaluating 9 MSAP projects and enjoying every minute of it. Our team includes Marilyn Zlotnick, Joyce Acaria, Maxine Lopez, Chloe Reinhardt, and Lori Ramsey. The agenda for today's webinar starts with presentations from 3 of our MSAP clients who will share some best practices and effective strategies from their districts. And then following those presentations, we will go into breakout groups. If you did not select a breakout group when you RSVP'd, you can type your preference in the chat and we will schedule you for that group. I will list the topics on the next slide in case you need to know that. Then after the breakout groups, we'll reconvene and we'll share out and wrap up. So before we begin with the presentations, I'd like to introduce our 3 panelists in order in which they will be presenting today. So first we have Dr. Regina Etter, who's the Magnet Project Director for Metro Nashville Public Schools. And Dr. Etter will talk to us today about outreach and recruitment. Next will be Jane Whitaker, the Magnet School Coordinator, and Lori Boyer, the Recruitment and Outreach Specialist from St. Lucie Public Schools, who will share a presentation about magnet partnerships. And then last but not least will be Dr. Joanne Rentella-Brew, Magnet Director, and Carly D'Annunzio, Magnet Resource Specialist in Community Districts 8 and 11 in New York City. And Carly's going to present about how her school has continued to provide thematic instruction and PBL units during remote and hybrid learning. We will share the presentations with you after the session. We hope you enjoy. I know I will. So our first panelist is Dr. Regina Etter. Regina, can you share some examples of how MMPS has shifted its outreach and recruitment to operate in a remote environment?
Absolutely.
So, take it away, Regina.
We are so excited. And our question is simply, how did you update outreach and recruitment activities during COVID-19? Well, that situation speaks to the need of innovation in education. And this is how we do it. All right. When we're thinking about our 5 schools in Metro Nashville, they are Glencliff, Inglewood, Rosebank, Warner, and Whitsett, the most magnificent STEAM schools in the entire country. Absolutely. And what we had to do to keep our students on track, keep the staff on track, keep our administrators on track was simply to shift. We began to shift gears. So for first gear, we realized the value of what you already know that works, keep it working. So we worked with our mailers. We decided to share work with our local paper to send out mailers all throughout the city to promote our schools and our virtual events. And we shifted. So as you can tell from the picture, this young man is ready. He says elementary magnet school children fall in love with learning. We're fostering that. And we began to shift one more time to second gear. As we moved to second gear, we saw the power behind social media presence. In our schools, they were already using social media handles. So what we determined would help us was to work with Instagram. So we decided to work extra hard, pull all our resources and really see what we could do to target specific audiences and to update, to shift, and to work with not only Twitter and Facebook, but Instagram. And so we worked together and promoted our Magnet Mondays during our school application window. And again, we said, we know we work better together, and we know that exceptional experiences will provide our students with opportunities and offerings that will make them stronger, wiser, and ready for the next school year. Let's shift. As we shifted to third gear, we looked at parent testimonial videos. Parents' voices, their videos, word of mouth, we've learned is one of the most effective recruitment tools. And when parents can't see each other, but they can turn to YouTube and hear about the powerful offerings that we have at our magnet schools. So how did we update? We simply had parents to share why they chose Rosebank, why they chose Glencliff, and the other 3 schools. We posted those, and parents began to start looking and listening to one another share about why choose a magnet school. And again, we decided to stand on track. We needed to shift. When we went to fourth gear, we went to a unified campaign, Choose campaign. And in that Choose campaign, it was to unify our schools and market Magnet as a whole. So we simply said, choose joy, choose wonder, choose amazement, and choose purpose. With our 5 schools having an option and having an opportunity to look at the wonderment that was going on, the joy from our students, staff, and our principals. And then at the district level, we said, hey, we like that unified approach. So we came up with Unifying Factors, which is our digital newspaper or our digital magazine that we share out once a month with our principals in our principal talk. And then we extend it out and push it out and message all the great things that we're doing as one team in 5 locations. We're unified, and these are the factors that represent us. And then we decided, hey, let's shift. So we shifted to the 5th gear. In the 5th gear, we did 1-second videos because for us, every second counts.
Good morning. We have a wonderful friend.
That's how we do it in Metro Nashville.
Thank you, Regina. I think it's going to be hard to follow that energy. But I really felt it was amazing how I really felt like I visited Witsit by just a bunch of 1-second snippets. So thank you for sharing that. And remember, we'll have an opportunity to talk with Regina more and have everyone else share their questions and best practices around outreach and recruitment during the breakouts. So thank you. And next we have Jane Whitaker and Lori Boyer from St. Lucie Public Schools, who will share some of their strategies for effectively utilizing magnet partnerships to enhance teaching and learning during this year of COVID. So Lori and Jane.
Hello, everyone. I am Jane Whitaker.
And I'm Lori Boyer. Pleasure to meet you.
And Regina, that was a tough act to follow. So thank you for all of that. I was busy writing the whole time you were talking. It was great. Today we wanted to talk just a little bit about the leveraging partnerships, and this is an area that we are really excited about some of the things we've been able to accomplish over the past 4 years. So we wanted to just set it up really quick. The main focus is about the last 3 slides, but we wanted to just give you some of the little glimpses of what our program really entails. So we have one K through 8 magnet school that is a performing arts school. And its focus obviously is all of the performing arts with the graphic, media arts, visual arts. You see just some of the pictures of the programs there. The next one just gives you a brief overview. One of the things that we try to really market is what sets CAST apart. So, and when we're leveraging our partners, we talk a lot about what does set these programs apart from any of the other schools that are in the district and why we need their support. So then the next one just introduces Samuel Gaines Academy of Emerging Technologies. When we initially started this grant, this school was a D school, and in 2 years became a B school. So we are very, very excited. And a lot of that had to do with the partnerships that we were able to build, including the computer programming with Lego Education, Microsoft. Now we've introduced some of the other ones. So Lori's going to talk really quick about the Microsoft Showcase.
Yeah, so with our partnership, we're able to work towards becoming a showcase school and leverage that to, grow interest in the program. If you want to advance to the next one. We also were able to partner them with Dell for the Girls Who Game program. So us along with 29 other districts throughout the US and Canada took part in that. Go ahead. And then we also were able to partner with Lego regarding Spike Prime teacher training modules that they were offering online options. And through our partnership, they actually reached out and wanted us to pilot it. So go ahead.
Very exciting. And then finally, our third school that's part of the 2017 grant is Fort Pierce Westwood Academy, which is our STEAM Magnet High School. It focuses, you can head to the next one. It just focuses, these are the programs that we really worked closely. You see our pharmacy tech there. One of our partners is Walgreens. We forgot to add them to the partnership slide, just as I'm thinking out loud here. But then again, we also have Vex Robotics. We have Minecraft, all of our various partners that we're going to talk about here in just a second.
And then through our partnerships, you can see there, we were able to leverage esports for the first time on Treasure Coast. So throughout our county, we were able to make that happen with their support. Go ahead. Also Leader in Me, that's been a huge partner helping us guide our students and in the thoughts of leadership and setting goals. Go ahead. You could go ahead. And so this really outlines the major partnerships that we've been able to work with to kind of showcase them, and we're going to then kind of talk about how we leverage them.
So, and really thinking about, how we have worked closely with our partners and really trying to leverage, that partnership. These were some of the things that we thought about. What if we tried to do a little differently as we're working with our partners? And one of those things was really being willing to ask for anything. And we have found that most of the time we hear the word, yes, let's do it. I don't think there's been a single thing that we have brought to a partner that we've heard no on. And really, we've been encouraged by all of them to think outside the box and really think about unique things that you wouldn't see anywhere else, and let's make it happen. And so that's been a great experience for us. The other thing that we would suggest is being best friends with departments across your district. We work very, very closely with our IT team, especially, when we're utilizing a lot of new technology, whether it's instructional technology, esports, et cetera, our communications team, curriculum, student assignment, CTE, et cetera, because we know that all of those are really When they're in meetings with other partners that we're not connected with, they're always thinking about us and shooting us emails and, hey, we thought of you guys for this, etc. So having them be on the forefront of all the work that we do has made a significant difference. Marketing matters. One of the things that we've learned about is really the difference between telling versus selling our programs. A lot of times in education, we find that we tell people about what we're doing, but do we really sell our programs? So we've really tried to focus on that with our partners. Appreciation goes a long way. So just those huge thank yous and going above and beyond with just, even if it's just a quick little email thank yous, those go a long, long way. So, and then finally, just building those quality relationships, it really goes beyond for asking for things. Building those partnerships are really about the relationships that, it's not all it's not all
taking the time,
yeah.
taking the time to, we get bombarded daily by a million different emails and things of that nature, but taking the time to listen when they want to, share something with you definitely goes a long way.
Exactly. And then the next one.
And this is our last one, so I'll go super quick, but continually thinking of ways to enhance the marketing to advertise, because it does go both ways. So, letting them see the return on their investment. If they're investing in your magnet schools, well, how are you then reciprocating that? Is that through utilizing social media? Is that through utilizing LinkedIn? These are great resources that really helps them get their brand and their marketing out there. Also thinking about partnering with them for presentations at conferences. It's a great way to leverage that partnership and just solidify it further. And then they get to speak, to what they're doing to support your district and vice versa. And also be innovative with some of the PD offerings. It's additional value added when they're able to share what they're, they could train out on things. They love to share that, and then it just helps to make it tighter. And then we've had a lot of great success too with press releases related to partner events. So if they've, worked with us on a pilot or whatever it might be, we've gotten press releases out there, shared it out, and it's made a world of difference. And, it gets out to even beyond just the local market. That's it.
Claire, I think you're muted right now.
That is
Sorry.
2020, right? You're on mute.
This year, you're on mute. Well, thank you, Jane and Lori. I think you were being a little modest about your partnerships, because when you go through that, the slide deck on your own, you will see that first of this, first of that, only one of these, piloting this and that. So I think they're a great resource to really understand how asking, for unique things to make your schools stand out is really doable. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
So our third presentation will be conducted by Carly D'Annunzio, who's the Magnet Resource Specialist at PS 178, the Magnet School of Multimedia Arts and Design in Co-op City in the Bronx, along with Dr. Joanne Rentel-Brew, who serves as Project Director for the District 8 and 11 MSAP grant. And they're going to speak to you today. Well, actually, Carly's going to lead the presentation about theme integration and PBL within a hybrid and remote learning environment in her school.
Hello, everybody. You got to excuse me. I have a little bit of a cold, so I don't nearly have the enthusiasm and the oomph that I would normally have that our other two presenters had, so please forgive me. But I'm going to discuss how we implement our thematic unit in the hybrid and the in-person learning, but more so how the shift has gone from in-person to remote, because we've all experienced that, how we had to make that shift overnight. And for us being a magnet school of multimedia art and design, it sort of set us up back in March to really be successful, because we had a lot of these tools in our back pocket. And even though I'm representing PS 178, which is in the Bronx, I'm also representing my fellow New York City schools that are on the call and who also have this grant as well. Even though they have different magnet themes, they are all doing a phenomenal job of also being able to take their units and change them to fit the remote environment. So we can move to the next slide. So many of our schools, if not all of them, use the PBL gold standard when we're talking about our instruction. And I found that this image, I really liked it, and I wanted to highlight it because it talks about what is happening in every aspect, from what the teachers are doing to what the students are doing and to what the underlying goals are. So we stick with the alignment. This year, we have switched from Common Core to the Next Generation Learning Standards. So that was a very easy fix, just aligning them to standards. So the management is a little bit different than it would be in a classroom. In the remote setting and the hybrid setting, we're using a lot of classrooms meets, Google Classroom meets or Zooms, where we're able to monitor the students. There's a lot of engagement and collaboration with their peers, and teachers are working with the students to organize the tasks, set checkpoints and deadlines, and find resources. With scaffolding, it's a little bit difficult because in the classroom, we're used to pulling our small groups for modified instruction if they need it. And with the guidelines, we have to be extremely careful that if we're in the building. Now, the city, I'm not sure about the other districts, but the city, some of the teachers who are teaching remotely are only teaching students who are remote, and there are teachers who are in-person teaching in-person students. However, both these Zooms or Google Meets or all of these are used regardless of the setting that they're in. So it's just adaptable either way. But in the remote setting, the teachers are using breakout rooms for more individualized instruction. If there's teaching assistants, or we call them paras, they can pull students into breakout rooms to work more collaboratively and with smaller groups of students. Then also we can use different apps and different things for students to be able to express themselves if they're having trouble with something, such as a drawing app, which might be more helpful for students who have difficulty expressing themselves in a written format. The design process, which is part of our name, which is, I think, used synonymously with magnet. Teachers are creating and adapting projects that are challenging students to solve problems in ways that becomes real life to them. So the projects are adapted to fit the theme. So again, our theme is multimedia arts and design, but not every school has that theme. So it is fit to meet their needs of their school. If it's a STEAM school, global leaders. Teachers are also promoting growth and independence for students. Engagement and coaching, the teachers are creating and learning alongside the students, and information is presented in more engaging ways. And for an example, we've been using Nearpod this year, which would allow for a teacher to reinforce a skill that allows the students to be more interactive in the process of learning. When we assess, we use formative and summative assessments, and it can be presented in the digital ways to ensure that students' knowledge and understanding is there. Basic things that we were doing are Google Forms or Docs. However, another engaging way could be Kahoot, which I include a little bit later in the presentation. So with engaging students in learning, how are we engaging them in our thematic instruction in this current climate? And it's difficult to engage anybody in this climate, adults as well. It's hard to sit in front of a computer for 6 hours a day. So we go from in-person to remote, and we have to be able to take those practices and adapt them from an in-person to a remote. And especially, being a situation like we are, it's a revolving door where 1 week we may be in person and 1 week we may be remote. So every teacher has to be able to quickly make that switch from an in-person mentality to a remote setting. So these are some ideas of things that we've been doing to kind of make sure that our thematic implementation is occurring. We need to change our way of thinking, instead of what is working in the classroom to now what is working remotely. And the first thing we talk about is delivering instructions. It's the process. So in the classroom, you're using smart boards, which have it's interactive. Students can get up and walk. There's videos, there's sounds, they can touch the board. You have the read alouds and your small group instruction, but it's difficult to do that now if you're in the building. So now with the remote setting, Google Slides are embedding videos and sounds and read alouds. They're using the interactive activities such as Nearpod or Pear Deck. Slides Mania is something one of my other Magnet colleagues shared with me just a couple weeks ago, so I wanted to include that in there, where it changes the templates to make it a little bit more engaging and visually appealing to students. Jamboards and Padlets are a great way to collaborate, like just as like a bulletin board. They can put Post-it notes on it. We're currently using one for our mini PBL unit on Respect for All Week. Our students have been taking notes, putting pictures up for the Padlet, which is basically what does it mean to respect others and be kind. So they've been showing a great variation of things they can do with those. And then, as I mentioned before, the breakout rooms for the small group instruction, it's helpful for students to be able to work in small groups with their teachers or with another adult. And then we go into the work, the student work, which is now your product. So in the classroom, you're used to non-digital. Everything is written on paper with pencil. Students are doing drawings by hand with crayons, markers. They're making dioramas. They could be making posters or doing group projects. Initially, when we went remote, it was very difficult to figure out how are we going to do any of this? How does this work? But a lot of digital resources are available that allow students to really express themselves. For example, Flipgrid. Students use Flipgrid to record themselves video, and it also takes their voice and to present their findings or present anything on a topic that they learned about. Audio presentations can also be in the form of an iMovie if they're using a Mac. Google Slides, or sites, classes can create a little website for themselves and compile all their information together, which is a lot of fun. And also Canva for Education is a big one that has a lot of digital artwork that students can use templates on. And for education, we had the ability to use it without having to pay for it. So it's been it's been very good for students to be able to express themselves using the images that they have there. And then finally, we talk about assessment and formative, both formative and summative. Again, back in the classroom, we're paper and pencil assessments, and students are calling out answers. We're using equity sticks and things to be able to make sure students are participating equally. Now online, Google Forms is very common, and it grades the work automatically, so it makes it a little bit easier on the teachers. It allows for the creation of a variety of different questions. You can have short response, you can have multiple choice. Mentimeter is something really cool. It's a survey that students can fill out. And Kahoot is what I mentioned before. It's a game format where it has multiple choice questions. The students have used it in science before. My own children use it in math. They also learn through Google Classroom. So a lot of these things they're new to a lot of teachers, but they're also, once they get to use them, once they get to understand them, it's also really, it's fun to use. And it just takes a lot of time to practice it. And if you don't get it right the first time, it's okay. They get it right the second time or the third time. And what I included here was some examples of our work. And I apologize because I thought the monologue, the 5th grade monologue, they created a montage for their human rights project. I thought it was linked. I might be mistaken. I might have not done that. I thought I did. So apologies for that. But our students also created the QR codes for Flipgrids in response to their work. Some of our 4th graders use their poetry, and they use, again, Canva and other apps to create their poems using images. One student he was in the building that day, so he created a poster. And the 3rd graders, their unit was representing books around the world, so they did some bookmarks. And again, apologies for that the monologue. There was a link for it, and I must have accidentally deleted it. But that's what I have to share. If I don't see you in the breakout room for me, you can feel free to email me with any questions. I'm happy to help with implementing the multimedia and tech into your schools. And from cold New York, I'm hoping everybody else is warm down in sunny Florida and Nashville. But that's all I have for you. So I hope it was informative, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Carly. We appreciate you sharing some of the work that your students are doing through the PBL units. And I'm sure people will have a lot of questions and conversation about thematic instruction, which is, I know, a challenge for everyone in this day of, every second of education is precious, and teachers are working 2 minutes for every minute. So well, in a minute, we will be adding you to the breakout groups, and you can ask questions of our presenters, but you can also share ideas from your own districts. We will have a member of our Metis team in each of the groups to start off the conversation, as well as take notes, so that she or one of the participants of that group can share some high-level takeaways with the rest of the group when we come back for a share out. We're going to have about 10 minutes for these conversations, but we really hope that you start to have sort of an ongoing dialogue across grants, and we will be able to share contact information as needed or as requested to kind of create more of a virtual community. So we do hope that that happens. So I'm going to turn it over to the breakout groups. Well, welcome back. I hope everyone's back. I am just going to take a time to introduce my colleague, Joy Zakaria, and she is going to lead us in our share out.
Hi, welcome back, everyone. I hope you've all had some meaningful conversations and have made some new friends. I'd like to spend the remainder of our time together reflecting on our breakout group conversations. As a reminder, we'll have a full set of notes from each conversation with all participants following the webinar. Would someone from each breakout group like to share a key takeaway? We have about 1 to 2 minutes per group. So maybe we could start off with someone from the outreach and recruitment group. Would someone like to share some key takeaways?
Hey everybody, I'm Lori Ramsey. I was with the marketing and recruitment group. I'm with Metis Associates. I have been selected to be the sharer outer. Regina led our group along with her colleague Megan Dryden over in Nashville. And there were lots of questions that we asked of Regina. So I'll just give you a few highlights. Somebody asked specifically about the 1-second videos and how they got that idea because people were really intrigued with that idea. And Regina shared that the feedback on those were indeed phenomenal. They actually ended a magnet showcase with lots of them. And they actually got that from a paid marketing partner that they work with. So they have a partner that helps with them with that. And that went to one of the other questions, which is how did they create the unified campaign in Metro, given that each school has different themes? And they basically talked about how they work with an external partner. And what they did was they actually asked each school to choose the top 10 photos. And then they played a game with parents, which was really kind of cool. They gave each parent in these small groups $1 in coins. And they asked their parents to place on the pictures the things that kind of represented the things they valued most about Magnet. They ended up coming up with the big themes across Magnets. And they used that as their unifying thing to build kind of interest and trust across Magnet, while still honoring the individual themes of the schools and highlighting, you know, one school has gardens and one school has an engineering lab. Then there were some questions about competition among schools and how do they draw interest to schools that sometimes kind of draw from the same narrative or neighborhoods. And they talked again about really focusing on the value add of the theme, capturing the zones first. In Metro, students are zoned, but then they can go across zones. So they really kind of try to capture the kids who are interested in their zoned area and then go outside as well. And one interesting thing I thought was kind of neat is that they discovered that parents are sometimes willing to choose a school that's not just close to their home, but also could be close to their workplace. So when they were advertising, they would say things like, wow, we're close to Vanderbilt University or a certain intersection that schools that parents might be familiar with and think, wow, I could drop my child off there on my way. So those were some of the big themes of our conversation.
Thank you, Lori. Anyone from the next group? That was the thematic theme integration, I think, or whichever group. Who would like? Anyone else would like to share?
Joy, hi. I can go.
Okay.
So we were the partnerships group. Jane and Lori's presentation follow up. Hi everyone, Marilyn Zlotnick. Believe it or not, there's still people in this Zoom that I don't know, even though I've been at this a while, but I'm with Metis. And so we had a really great conversation about sort of how you get the partnerships up and running, because I think that was one of the first questions that came. And I think the two really interesting takeaways from that were, first, to sort of go to your district resources. And because they, for example, their IT department might have the go-to vendors that have been kind of vetted by the district and could offer support. But one thing that I heard from Jane was the fact that once the news of the grant got out and word of the grant got out, actually it was a magnet for vendors who were interested in some of the programs and activities. I think Lego was the example there. Another really interesting vein of the conversation was a question around how can you think about leveraging your parent community, sort of parent and community engagement with partnership development, and whether there are innovative ways to kind of leverage your parents through parent university, that kind of thing, to really bolster the partnerships that you have for your programs. And then the other idea is that some of the strongest partnerships are the ones that are the most long-standing, because they probably started before the grant and will most likely continue after the grant, because these are ongoing, mutually reinforcing, mutually beneficial partnerships between schools and local organizations. So sort of, it doesn't always have to be like the really, sexy new thing. It can just be the tried and true partners that you've been working with for a long time. And I just wanted to say that I loved Lori's, one of her closing comments, I believe, was just believe in your program. And so I think if you believe in your program and you want to make it as good as it can possibly be, then partnerships become a really, really important strategic lever in that process. And so I think there were lots of examples, but I think those are sort of the big conceptual takeaways from the conversation.
Thanks, Mare. Anyone from the theme integration group want to share?
Hi, Dr. Rintel LeBrew, Project Director from District 811. Thank you so much, Carly, for sharing your wonderful theme integration. So one of the, what we discussed very much in the beginning was the fact, a challenge is that when you're talking about innovative platforms, whether they be remote or whether they be in person, it requires a tremendous amount of training and practice for the teachers themselves to become comfortable with providing the kind of support that the students are going to need. And to piggyback on what Marilyn said at the end, which is, believe in your program, Carly stressed we need to believe in our teachers, and we need to be with them and allow them the room and the space to take chances and, to engage in the practices that might not always succeed in the way that they want until they get better at it. So that was a really important conversation. And then we ended talking about another challenge and innovative responses to virtual field trips and the type of enrichment that thematic programming requires. And so we discussed the different avenues that we could use. And there are many ways that the students can engage, either in simulations. If we Google institutions, cultural institutions, the students can engage in these types of virtual activities and virtual opportunities that they may have gotten in person had they been in schools. And again, there's this constant shift that we were also talking about, that pivot from in person to remote. And thank you again to my group.
Joy, can I just add a piece to that? Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
My dog is barking. That's why I need it.
I just wanted to bring to expand upon what Joanne had shared, and a question that Karen from Wake had posed, and I think it would be interesting for kind of a whole group, if you don't mind me asking people, and that is around those virtual experiences, whether they be field trips or more advanced business partnerships when you get into the high school, middle and high school level. And that is around sort of what types of platforms, what types of technology are people using in terms of AR, VR, what are the innovations out there to bring life, beyond, videos, which are wonderful, and guest speakers, which are wonderful, but are there technologies out there that can really enhance the, or replace some of the hands-on work that kids cannot do these days? So I really love if anybody has any ideas or online, offline, share that with the group. I think that would be really helpful.
Hi, this is Sarah from San Diego. I'll just share that our school district did purchase for our middle schools the Amplify curriculums for both our English language arts programs and the science. And I really find the science one is, it's really helping engage our students in inquiry. We're a STEAM school and we really love the Amplify Science online curriculum.
Thanks, Sarah. I guess no VR, AR so far.
Claire, there's an app called Orasma. I haven't figured out a way to get kids to use it. You know, Orasma basically allows you to generate a QR code, and then when you hold the device over that, you'll get an interactive component to shared visual work. But in my mind now, I'm thinking that that's good for distancing. So, you know, if you're moving through a school and you were sharing projects to keep people apart, the student wouldn't have to be face to face. You could look at the work, hold up the device, and actually see them present it as a video.
Stephen, can you spell that for us?
Orasma, which is A-U-R-A-S-M-A.
Okay.
It might be on people's devices as HP Reveal, I think was the original software.
Also, Claire, one option is Google Glasses are not expensive. They are relatively cheap, and you can get apps on phones, iPads, so that the students can engage in VR experiences. Really, they're very interesting experiences that they can look at through the Google Glasses. And I think it's something that we can be able to provide for all of the students because it is a low cost.
Yeah, Claire, we've been using, hi, I'm Dan from Junior High School 123 in the Bronx. We've been like trying like Google 360 images for like virtual field trips, like when we can't like actually take our kids to physical locations. It's community driven, so people who have like gone to specific sites can take a 360 video, and so it's really hit or miss depending on like the location where you want to show the students. But for our Ancient Egypt entry event, we had students basically tour like the current state of the pyramids through 360 experiences to kind of bring them into the content.
For those of you who have Nearpod too, they have virtual field trip experiences too with AR, VR, in which you can type in a location and then they'll pull up experiences that you can share out right there in class and kids can interact with. In the spring, actually, one of our kindergarten teams, it was their unit to go and learn about like people in the community. So they were going to take a field trip to the local fire department and things of that nature. Well, they leveraged Nearpod to utilize some of that to show it at different places, what fire departments look like throughout different communities. So there was one in China, there was one, in Florida, and then throughout different areas of the world. And then they also were able to embed some local firefighters were able to share, well, their education team was able to share out about, the fire district and the firefighters and things of that nature. And it was all able to be encompassed within Nearpod, and the teachers even dressed up like they were going on a field trip, and they used like little Flipgrid moments to share out, how they were feeling on the field trip. And then the kids could respond as they were taking part in that field trip. So that was kind of a neat experience.
Thanks, Lori. I know we have to wrap up, but I do want to share one other. I was just doing some work for Wake County, and I know that if they have an environmental connection school, and some of their teachers for the remote students had actually taken their devices to outdoor areas, parks and whatnot, and taught from those locations to kind of bring the environmental connection into the screen. probably encouraging students to do so as well. But that was interesting. And I think she talked about having the students try to guess where they were. And so it was kind of bridged that, knowledge about the environment. So I wanted to share that. And sorry, Tila, probably Jessica was the one that stealing her thunder, but hope you don't mind me sharing that. So I know we could probably go on, and I know Magnet friends can talk forever and share challenges, whatnot. But, we do have to wrap up. We're at 4 o'clock, and I know everyone's time is precious. So just, to end, we are taping recording this session. So we will share that link with you. It will be posted on our YouTube channel, and we encourage you to share with others who couldn't participate. Feel free to reach out to me or anyone else on the Metis team. You can go to our website and all of our contact information is there. If you have a specific question for somebody, I can forward that to them with any questions, or if you just want to connect with somebody from the webinar more. And we really also just last would love to know what you think about the webinar, and really hope that you can fill out our feedback survey, which Maxine has posted in the chat. We will be sending out an email afterwards with that as well. But just, we hope that we can continue this and make this more useful for you. It was fun for us, but we really wanted it to be a sharing opportunity for all of the clients that we love. So if any feedback, positive or negative, we really appreciate. And that's all that we have. So I just want to thank our presenters again, and just all of the participants for joining us and taking time out of your days. It really was a pleasure to have everybody on this webinar, and we look forward to offering other opportunities in the future. So
and our cocktail party in November in DC again.
Yes.
If we can get there.
Yes, we all want to get on planes and visit all of you. So buses, whatever, trains, subways. So thank you, everyone.